Welcome to another webinar series with UMFCCI, new partnerships, new beginnings. And today we're very lucky to be with three very distinguished guests who will be sharing with them their experiences, knowledge, not only from their own countries, but also from their vast experience of doing business in Myanmar. We are joined today, and today's seminar will be focused on views from our neighbors. So first of our list, we're very glad to have Sunil join us. Sunil is the chair of the Myanmar-India Chamber of Commerce in Myanmar. He's been in Myanmar for 8 years, 34 years of wise business. He's been with one of the world's biggest companies, that would be Tata from India. So he understands industry very, very well. We are then followed by Kunatawin, who is the Vice Chair of the Thai Business Association in Myanmar. Kunatawin, I've known from you for the last 10 years. I thought you've only been here 10 years, but you've been here 20 years. If we look at you, you probably look very Myanmar. And I'm sure that you speak a bit of Myanmar language, and obviously 20 years of doing business in Myanmar and obviously doing business in Thailand will give us and our viewers a very, very, very good background on what doing business is all about. And last but not least, we are joined by Lucas Chen. Lucas Chen is the Vice Chair with the Chinese Chamber of Commerce in Myanmar. Lucas has been here for 6 years. In his daytime job, he is with a law firm. So he's in a position to difficultly explain how the business situation is like to all his members that come from China. So today we are view from our members. So for our neighbors, these are being India, Thailand, and China. So gentlemen, thank you very much for being with us today. I know we can actually call today's webinar an international webinar because Kunatawin is in Bangkok, Lucas is in Kunming, and Sunil is in Klang Township. So we can truly say this is one of the webinars where we have an international audience with us. I know both Lucas has just gone back to China, and Kunatawin, Paulie, you've been stuck in Bangkok for the last 6 months. As they say in the trade, so near but so far. So gentlemen, let me start today's conversation, today's webinar, today's discussion in things that will make UMFCCI members a little bit more aware of how important our neighbors is. For the last 20 years at UMFCCI, I represent UMFCCI in a lot of seminars and forums, and I'm on various business councils. One of the things that I've done during this last, actually it's not 20 years, it's 30 years of being in Myanmar, is to go and tell people the opportunities of Myanmar. Myanmar borders 40% of the world's population because of India and China and in Thailand. And if you look at the world's GDP, we're probably in the area with the fastest growing GDP. I believe that if you was to calculate all the GDP, just because of the GDP in China and in India, it's over 20% of the world's GDP, and the growth rate is one of the highest in the world. So on your viewpoints and in your experience, what do you think Myanmar needs to do to actually utilize this unique opportunity to be bordering 40% of the world's population? So if I can ask Sunil, can you tell us, you're from one of the biggest countries in the world, you've been there 8 years. What does Myanmar really need to do? Are we doing enough, or do we need to do some more? Thank you, Sunil. So if you give us your viewpoints on that.
Thank you, Umoja. Very nice to talk to you, and a big hello to Kunatawin and Lucas. So I think as far as India and Myanmar are concerned, I think we share, as you all know, a very, very long historical, cultural, and a business relationship going back many years. We also share a border of nearly 1,600 kilometers between Myanmar and India. Today, Umoja, the trade between the two countries is around close to $2 billion. And primarily, I think, in favor of Myanmar, because Myanmar exports a lot of beans and pulses and agro commodities to India. Imports, however, from India to Myanmar is something that we should really look at. And that is where I see a huge opportunity in increasing this trade, both exports out of Myanmar as well as imports from India into Myanmar. And at the chamber at IMCC, this is something that we formed about 2 years back to, sort of create a credible platform for both Indian businesses and Myanmar businesses to interact. And I'm very happy to say that in the last 2 years, this has gained a lot of traction, a lot more interest of Myanmar businesses in India and Indian businesses in Myanmar is what we've seen in the last 2 years. So, talking specifically of opportunities which you mentioned, I think agro is an area where we can grow far more. Today, there are just 3 or 4 products that Myanmar focuses on, which are exported to India. We are now in discussions, in fact, with the agro vertical at UMFCCI as well as with the Beans and Pulses Association to see if there are certain other products like yellow peas and red lentils which we can grow in the upper parts, the colder parts of Myanmar for exporting to India, because there's a huge demand for these products in India. And today, this material or this food stuff comes all the way from Canada, incurring a huge transportation cost. And now with our port systems being upgraded in Yangon as well as on the East Coast with so many new ports coming up in India, we see this as a very good possibility to really increase the product mix and see how we can do more trade of agro commodities from Myanmar into India and look at a mix enrichment kind of a strategy. Looking at imports, Umojo, from India to Myanmar, pharma today is a big sector where we already operate, but I see far more scope to increase more pharmaceutical, bring in higher quality of drugs, as well as invest and manufacture. We are in fact telling our members to come and set up a factory here, because being a LDC country, there are huge benefits for an Indian pharma company to come and set up a factory in Myanmar. There are a few companies that have already set up shop in Tilawa, and we are really encouraging a lot more companies to come down here and set up pharma factories. So pharma, also steel. Steel, as you know, there is a huge shortage of, there is hardly any domestic capacity in Myanmar. 90%, my friend Lucas exports from China, but I feel that there is still a huge scope for Myanmar and Indians to come and set up steel manufacturing here in Myanmar, because as the country grows, as the infrastructure develops, having core industry ownership is very, very important. You cannot sort of grow depending only on imports for a very basic commodity like cement and steel. I think in cement you've already become self-sufficient, but steel is one more area where I feel there's a good chance for us to do. So opportunities are galore, but I think we should focus on a few strategic areas which are core competence of India or Myanmar. And we at the chamber really are very hopeful that at least in terms of trade from the current levels of 1.5 to $2 billion, we would like to grow this at least to $5 billion in the next 3 years. Thanks.
Thank you. Samir, one thing that I'd like to ask you about is during the last 5-10 years, I've been in various forums and various seminars, and I visited India, I think, twice. One was a visit sponsored by ADB, and it was to look at the prospect of India as a country, as one of the biggest countries in the world, looking east. That is to say, was that okay? Yeah, looking east. That is to make India is now, if you look at the service industry and its manufacturing base, it does a lot of work with the West, but not with the East. Of course, Myanmar being your neighbor, we have a vast potential to connect you to the East. Now, one of the things that your government has done, and the past Indian ambassador was very proud of, is the prospect of Indian companies coming to manufacture, to make Indian companies look east, Indian companies coming into Myanmar, starting a production base over here, and be able to export their products back into India with no duties. I believe that there's probably about 2,800 classified items that does that. And by doing so, it means that other companies, other investors like China and India can start a manufacturing base in Myanmar and import into India at a reduced rate. So what are your viewpoints? Do you think is starting to bear success? The fact that your government and our government has got a trade pact or an investment pact that allows Indian companies to make products here and send back to India with absolutely no tariffs. And in the same way, by doing that, allowing investors from in our countries like China and Thailand to do the same. Do you think this is happening? Do you think there's more interest from India on that?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So first of all, I want to say that this whole relationship you mentioned about Look East, it started really with a friendship first, friendship with the neighbors, then moved to Look East, and now actually our Prime Minister calls it Act East. So it's not just look, but you really need to engage heavily. And I'm very happy that in the last 8 years that I've been here, I've seen so many high-level delegations, including our current Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, has also visited in this last 8 years that I've been here twice. Then also I think Dosu has visited India. The president of Myanmar has visited India. So I think these high-level meets are certainly there, and I think it's all about leadership, that how you engage, and it's all about bringing in that focus. And I think I really see that happening. Two things I would like to point out. One is, as far as Government of India is concerned, I would just like to highlight that one of our largest investments of the government is a 400 or 500 million dollar investment at the Kaladan multimodal transport project that we are building. So we are building a port at Sitwe, which is now ready, and then this will be connected to Paletwa by river, and then onwards by road to the northeast of India, connecting all the 7 states. So this should again, the whole idea was to see how to feed in, bring in more material from India into upper parts of Myanmar through Sitwe port, and at the same time also see how to feed in a lot of cargo both from Myanmar as well as international waters into northeastern states of India. So that is one area. That's a huge project, a connectivity project that Government of India is working on. The other thing we are working on is the trilateral highway, which is going to connect northeast India with Bagan, Mandalay, and onwards to Mysore in Thailand. So connecting these three countries. So that's another. So connectivity, I think, is something that the government has really done a very good job, and we are still working on these two very large projects. Talking of bringing manufacturing here, yes, I absolutely, and I think we are working on that. So Sitwe, the whole idea that we've been working on is the way the Japanese have developed, say, the Tilawa SEZ. The discussions at the chamber that we've been having with our embassy as well as with the government is to see if a similar kind of a SEZ can be built in and around Sitwe, where the focus could be more on pharma, on IT and soft skills, as well as value addition and food processing, and maybe garments, because India also has the possibility to supply the raw material, and then we make garments here in India. And again, Myanmar, being a LDC country, has that advantage of exporting to Europe and US with no duties. So building a SEZ, something similar to the way Tilawa was built, is something that we are seriously exploring. So that's very much on the top of our mind. And industries like garment, pharmaceutical, automobile, and IT is something that is India's core strengths, is what we are looking at building here in Myanmar.
Yes, again, those sort of developments that are happening with Myanmar and India is very incredible. And we might remember all the television commercials about incredible India. So we do look forward for that materializing. Talking about logistics, everybody on every businessman's mouth is the One Belt, One Road project. Myanmar, one of the things that I like to boast about Myanmar is Myanmar does have a massive and important connection with China. through our pipeline from Sittwe going into China. Yeah, the pipeline, I believe, is something like 780 kilometers large, and it could be responsible as much as 10% of China's energy needs. With that in mind, and given that connectivity, maybe Lucas, you can discuss what are the latest development in the One Belt One project. Is this one of the most important things that China looks at Myanmar in helping us develop? So your viewpoints in Lucas, in terms of the One Belt One Road project and the connectivity, the reliance that maybe China has more on India, more on Myanmar than Myanmar has on China. So if you can talk us through, and what does the Chinese companies really see in the opportunities to Myanmar to develop? Please, Lucas.
Thanks, Homojo. So my view is that because as a democratic country, development opportunities firstly and always depend on people's will. In order to realize people's will to the fullest extent, government needs actually make economic development plans by referencing to the current status and the potentials of the country's industries. So I know Myanmar already have a national plan that covers the development for the next decade, which is the Myanmar Sustainable Development Plan, MSDP. So actually, MSDP directs Myanmar's the future economic development by setting specific goals and action plans. And during this pandemic period, Myanmar also made the COVID economic relief plan to priority the development of the sectors that people are actually in needs. So I would like to talk a little bit about the Belt and Road. Actually, the Belt and Road and the MSDP have a lot of things in common. And the Belt and Road initiative is not to replace existing mechanisms or initiatives for regional cooperation. Much to the contrary, it is based on existing development achievement that made by neighboring countries and to align their development strategies for the purpose of common interest. So in other words, I think it's largely depend on Myanmar's needs and what China can help to realize it, and at the same time, achieve a win-win situation. So actually, in a region where more than 40% of the world's population reside, Myanmar has very unique advantages of young and vigorous population. The geographic connections to China, India, Thailand, and other neighboring countries by land, and the rest of the world by sea. Therefore, I think cooperations among the regional countries in Myanmar will be largely benefit Myanmar, which is acting as the connection point in Indochina. If Myanmar works closely with all the foreign investment and in foreign countries, in particular the neighboring countries, Myanmar will become the crossroad where goods, services, fund, and technologies meet. And with all the aforementioned in place, the economic of Myanmar will be boosted. Myanmar will eventually become a major player in the world's market. I would like to also address on the industrialization of Myanmar. Industrialization of Myanmar will for sure create a lot of opportunities and will serve as a good basis for creating the country's middle classes and also at the same time facilitating the trade. Like Myanmar can be a very important corridor to facilitate the trade between India and all the way from India to China and also to Bangkok, like to Thailand. However, I think as the basis for industrialization, infrastructures are essential. This includes not only power plants, telecommunication towers, roads, bridges, terminals, and airports, but also soft infrastructures, such as friendly and convenient investment environment, modern cross-border payment system, and efficient and professional dispute resolution services. It is a wonderful chance for Myanmar to develop and to align with the countries in the region. We have many members who are doing infrastructure development and construction in Myanmar. We also have a lot of members who are operating garment and footwear factories. And even during this pandemic period, they are still staying in Myanmar to explore the market opportunities. Yes. So I think infrastructures and actually all kinds of industries like manufacturers are actually the opportunities for Myanmar to create a lot of jobs opportunities and also to bring a lot of investment at this juncture. And with this kind of infrastructures and also the industries that much more developed in the future, Myanmar can increase its roles in this region, and actually it can be a major player in the future.
Thank you thank you very much for that, Lucas. You was mentioning infrastructure, something that Myanmar needs more than anything else to start us on a proper path on development. I hope you don't mind me asking, but quite a lot of our viewers and a lot of UMFCCI members are hoping that most of these infrastructure will come from the assistance of China, especially with the One Belt One Road initiative. But you've heard the news, the international, so the saying that we have, maybe the misunderstanding on the survey or on the debt trap. You know, the fact that if we get aid from China, you're a lawyer, you understand these sort of elements. How worried should Myanmar businesses or Myanmar people be about falling into the debt trap that we've heard, like Sri Lanka and like Mauritius, that sort of stuff? Can you give us some of your ideas? Is it something that we should be worried about?
Yeah, I think it's maybe it's a misunderstanding, and I would like to say do not worry too much about that, because by leveraging the experience of all the developed countries and also that the developing countries that in the region, it's very common to raise a fund by actually asking for a loan and these sort of things. Maybe I understood that it is a culture in Myanmar that people are quite reluctant to borrowing from others. I think it's the same actually in China in the past, that people tended not to take a loan as like that. So, but now that everything got changed already, so if there is a development, there is a project, you must need project financing. So it's very essential. You cannot just use your own money to do it, because that you need some leverages. So you need money, you need actually to borrow from other countries. And a lot of countries actually provide loans to Myanmar at this structure, right? So because that there's ODAs or free of interest or with interest, this kind of loans. And then Myanmar actually, as I mentioned, it's always depend on Myanmar's will. Myanmar can choose. So use a proper scheme, just like the project bank. So the project bank also help Myanmar to actually selecting you can compare the terms and conditions of a loan, not necessary to take the loans from a single country. You actually have the choice. By comparing the terms and conditions of each loans that are actually provided by each country, you can make the best decision, I think. So if China's loans, the terms and conditions of Chinese loans prevail over other loans like that, it's more favorable to Myanmar, you can take it. It's just a commercial decision. It's my viewpoint. Thank you, Komojo.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. And I think you got a good point. At the end of the day, it's our government, our businesses, our consultants that decide whether the loan is good or not. Yeah, so it's probably like going into a contract. One of the things that everybody's been saying is development. With my position in UMFCCI and for the last 20 years visiting other countries, and the most countries that I visited is of course Thailand, and in particular Bangkok City. It's just so unfortunate. I was making a big fact that Myanmar has linkages to the rest of the world, and Myanmar's tourism could develop so quickly because we were just 50 minutes away from the world's most visited city, or world's most visited country in the world. This is obviously before the pandemic. But one of the things that always appealed to me and made me feel as though Thailand was like my home and they're really like brothers is they've had, since I would say since 1990, Thailand has really taken off. So let's look at it, 30 years over here. And I always ask my Thai friends, how did you develop so quickly, so well? I mean, it's immense, you've done the right things. But they always tell me, no, Mojo. It's not the right things that we do, it's all the wrong things that we've been doing. Now, Thailand is in a position to tell us, don't do the same mistake that we did. But when you see the great wealth that Bangkok City has for offer. So for you being here 20 years and, And the first question that I asked Samil and Lucas as well, what are the real opportunities, and maybe from your viewpoints, what should be worried about? Yeah, that what is the mistake that Thailand did during the last 30 years that we should be worried about, or do we think that we just have to learn as things go by? So Kunatawin, please tell us your viewpoints on that, the opportunities of what we should be worrying about.
Thank you, Gomojo. And good morning, Lucas and Sunil. It's my pleasure to join this webinar. And I would like to thank UNVCCI for the initiation of giving us the opportunity to tell us about the experience and how we plan the development or investment in Myanmar. You raised a very good questions. Yeah, actually 30 years is a time when the Thai business learning a lot. We definitely made a lot of mistakes. Even the last 10 years, we're still making a lot of very big mistakes. Yeah, but in different sectors, we have been doing trial and error, and also we gain a lot of the strong point, competing in other countries, exporting a lot of product and services to the world. So a lot of sectors we have realized that these are the key strengths that Thailand have. And definitely, since we are the neighbor countries and Myanmar has a lot of great opportunities, Myanmar is not only connecting to the 40% of the people of the world, but also you are at the heart of Asia. And we believe that Thailand, China, India, and the neighboring countries will be able to help connecting, help bringing in the experience and the expertise that we all have to share with our friends in Myanmar to help develop the economy. So in terms of the mistake that we are making, I think we made a lot of mistake. But from my experience that I have been seeing Myanmar development, I can say that the Myanmar government had took a lot of the bad experience that we got, a lot of trial and error. And what I heard of from my government is that actually Thai government and Myanmar government, they are working closely together. They have a lot of exchange from a very top level until a very practical working level to work together. And of course, the main objective is not to repeat the mistake that we have been doing. Another point that I would like to raise is as from the Thai Business Association of Myanmar, we have tried to identify what are the key areas where we can help our Myanmar friends to develop the economy, where we can bring the experience, the expertise that the Thai have to help support our Myanmar friends and also building the good collaboration and building the business together. So we have identified 5 key sectors. The first one is the tourism industry, which of course we are one of the key players. Last year we have more than 40 million foreign visitors coming to Thailand. And the business sector, we have learned a lot of experience. We have gained a lot of clientele network. We have the know-how. We have the experience that we are ready to share with our Myanmar friends. Whereas Myanmar have a lot of unexplored natural resources, young labor team, and of course, it's a country where it's a frontier market. A lot of people would like to explore. It's not only the people who want to come and travel, but a lot of business people who would like to come see the opportunity in Myanmar. With this strength that we have on both countries and the connectivity, as what Gomojo has mentioned, probably Thailand is the most destination, the international destination that's flying out from Myanmar. And we are happy to be the connectivity to help link Myanmar and the world. The next business that I would like to mention, the next sector that I would like to mention is the food and agriculture processing, value-added products. Mr. Sunil has mentioned that India will be able to help collaborate and also develop a lot of agriculture products, same as Thailand. Since we are doing a lot of processing, we have been focusing on being the kitchen of the world. We have had a lot of Thai restaurants all over the world. We have been exporting a lot of value-added products. This is one of the key sectors where we see that by working together with our Myanmar friends, we will be able to create a big synergy to develop these sectors. Thailand alone is no more competitive because we're short of labor. We are coming to the aging society in the next few years. I couldn't believe it, but it's the fact. Yeah, we're running short of the natural resources. We're running short of the young labor. Yeah, and the tax incentive, the GSP. These are all the things that Thai and Myanmar will be able to collaborate together, and we'll be able to realize the synergy. The number 3 sectors that I would like to mention is the manufacturing, which we believe that currently the size of the local Myanmar market, 53 million people, is a very sizable. At the same time, what we can see is that with the know-how that Thai have, that we have been producing a lot of product for the last 30 years. But of course, we are learning from our investor, foreign investor like Japan, Singapore, US, our European investor. We are learning a lot for the past 30 years, and that makes Thailand currently. So we would like to share the experience, the know-how that we have, working closely together with our Myanmar friends, so that we can start seeing the expansion of the manufacturing base from Thailand to Myanmar. And honestly speaking, currently we are not in the position of competing in terms of the cheapest unit cost any longer. So we need to work with the countries where they have a lot of young labor force with a very competitive labor charge and also the incentive. And in return, it will also help Myanmar in the sense that they will be able to reduce or substitute the import content, the import products. Yeah. And at the same time, Myanmar will be able to supply a lot of products back to Thailand. And we hope that Thailand will be one of the gateway to be able to help exporting Myanmar products to the world. The next one is the IT and the digital economy. Thailand government has been implementing the digital economy for the last 4 years. And the real effect is coming in the last 2 years when the banks are jumping in and they try to help facilitate the transaction by cutting down all the transaction costs. So now a lot of people in Thailand, they no more using traditional banking transaction. They go all on to the mobile banking, iBanking, which currently Myanmar has that kind of capacities because of the telecom infrastructure is already there. But a lot of other things, since Thailand and Myanmar, we share a lot of common things, common grounds together, lifestyle, culture, religion, belief. I believe that this is one of the area where the Thai people or the Thai business can bring the solution that they have been implementing successfully in Thailand and working together in Myanmar, doing some modification, localization, and make it happen in Myanmar. And this will definitely help a lot of, not only the big company, but a lot of SMEs in Myanmar to have the channel to sell their products to the world. Now the internet is going everywhere. The marketplace is very big, and we are not the one who do the marketplace. Tencent, Alibaba, Amazon, these are the big players who are giving the chance for a lot of SMEs in many countries in the world to be able to sell their products. Last but not least is the infrastructure development. Yeah, of course, we have to accept that Myanmar just only the start. Myanmar is still a frontier market. In terms of infrastructure, there are still a lot of room to improve. Our big brothers like China and India, they are coming in with a trilateral highway, and we'll be happy to help connecting the trilateral highway to connect to the Southeast Asia, to connect East-West Economic Corridor, to connect to the EEC that the Thai government is implementing right now. Yeah. And we believe that along the 2,400 kilometers of border between Thailand and Myanmar. Currently, the infrastructure in Myanmar probably is not ready yet, but on the Thailand side, we are ready. So if the Myanmar government and the state and regional government can utilize the business, the potential of the border trades, as well as the infrastructure on Thailand side, we'll be more than happy to work together. And I'm sure that we'll be able to develop a lot of different businesses along the way from the middle of Myanmar down to the most southern tip of Myanmar. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. I think about 6 years ago, I was fortunate enough to actually drive from Yangon all the way to Bangkok via Myawaddy and Mae Sot. Yeah, and there was about a stretch of road, maybe 100 kilometers or maybe 60 kilometers that Thailand built. So the roads that you guys can build is still very, very impressive. But that is one of the things we should be looking at, easing of trade and the fact that, I think if the roads were developed on the Myanmar side, so it's about 6.5 hours from Mae Sot to Bangkok. And from here, 4 hours, you can probably do it in 10 hours, yeah? That's like traveling somewhere in America. One of the things that all of you have said is infrastructure, but all of us are businessmen. And at the end of the day, the importance of monetary infrastructure, the ability to use my jats, to get butts, for the RMB to be able to buy products in jats, and of course India with the rupee as well. I mean, why are we still focused on using the US dollars? How important would it be if we were to have a direct currency where we can open an LC with each other currency? I think a lot of the beans and bulks agriculture business would be happening more directly with India than going through Singapore. And of course, the tourism. The fact that Myanmar people can take jats and maybe change it into baht, and not only that, we think there's 3 million Myanmar workers in Thailand. The amount of money, and obviously with China, I think maybe China's getting a little bit shy of the US dollars, the importance. So just the one important for you to tell your members or to tell our viewers, we have some stakeholders in the financial sector. How important do you think that the ability to do trading with us with our own currency and not be reliant on the US dollars? So maybe some of you can ask off here, how important do you think that is to be able to directly do interbank? And maybe Natawin can tell us there's some action happening in the Bangkok side. And Lucas, I heard that theoretically there is an agreement to use as a currency already. So Samil, let's talk about using RMB in JUTS. We're already doing it at the borders. Why can't we do it internationally?
No, I think it's a fair point, and that is something which we've also been discussing. As a matter of fact, for all this agri-trade which happens between Myanmar and India, which I said is nearly $1 billion today, all of it is transacted in US dollars. And, we're opening all the LCs, etc., because of limitations of banking systems and very high cost of opening letters of credit from Myanmar. We perforce have to get this opened from banks in Singapore. In fact, most of the trade, the paperwork, the documentation, all while physically the cargo pulses move from Yangon ports to ports in India, as far as the documentation is concerned and the financial flow of documents is concerned, all that is happening in US dollars and through Singapore banks. So yes, that's a valid point. And in fact, I think, but there are, of course, some challenges that we also face internally with our Reserve Bank of India. But we are in discussions. We've raised this also with our embassy here in Myanmar, as well as with Ministry of Finance and Ministry of External Affairs and RBI, which is the Reserve Bank of India, to see if we can, make payments in rupee, and not just for trade, but also for some very large, projects, whether it is construction or whether building a power plant. We've had some discussions, frankly, with the Ministry of Finance, including with Uso Wen and Usetong, and I think they've been quite open to having this discussion, but we need to follow this through and also get our own house in order. I feel RBI also needs to be convinced of this. But that is something certainly that we as a chamber would like to explore very seriously.
Yes. So, Lucas, maybe on your side, we've heard that there's some agreement with our central banks, but it's not being practical yet. When do you think we'll be in a situation when I can open out LCs in RMB and when Chinese companies can open LCs in JUTs?
Yes, I think that in the early this year, actually that there is an official like agreement between the two countries, the CBM of two countries that actually allows RMB to be recognized as the official settlement currency in Myanmar, and but it's not available to the enterprise yet. So it means that you cannot go to a bank and ask to open an RMB account yet. But I think it's a very good trend actually. It means that actually in the future that it will be possible for people to use RMB here in Myanmar and for exchange.
So, Kunata, maybe we can go to your ideas on the financial infrastructure. I believe that we will have, is it 3 or 4 Thai banks ready to open up? So can you tell us the latest on that? I mean, the next time I go to Bangkok, will it be possible for me to just carry my JUTs?
I hope so. The direct JAT baht is very, very important because the trade between the two countries is around 7 billion US dollar. And you can imagine that is the huge amount. Yeah. And if we can do direct JAT baht, you can see the saving since we don't have to go to the third currency. So I understand that now they will start having the pilot project at the border, at certain border to try to do this. And at the same time, we have to thanks to the Central Bank of Myanmar that have grant more banking license for the Thai banks. So I heard that now the Thai banks, and it's not only the banking license, but I understand that K-Bank is also joining with A-Bank. So they will also start doing the Baja transaction. And I hope that that will definitely help in terms of cutting down the currency risks. That is one part. The other part is definitely will help reducing down the cost of buying the raw material, selling the products. And that will create the more potential of exporting the products of Myanmar to the world. So we hope that both government and of course UNFCCI and TBAM, we need to work hard together to try to push this scheme and create a benefit for the countries.
Thank you very much. Sorry, we just missed you for a while, Lucas. But Lucas, if more of our currency can be used as a vehicle for doing trade, what are the possibilities of Chinese banks giving out RMB loans to Myanmar companies? It's something that's very, very interesting to have. Everybody knows for us, our business to develop, we do need a lot of funding. Do you think if the currencies were more openly exchangeable with our countries, that we could be seeing Chinese banks give loans to Myanmar companies, or is that still too early?
I think that is possible and is actually and doable, and it's the trend. Because that actually from a business perspective, the current situation is that there's a lot of the Chinese contractors and material suppliers that they actually provide services, or they just carrying these kind of materials to the projects in Myanmar. So with this kind of RMB loans, that actually it will be enable them to actually borrowing RMB and paying RMB is more convenient for this kind of contractors and also the suppliers. And it will be actually encouraging more and more Chinese investment to come here to actually take to participating in the construction sectors, and also that because it is easier to actually to settle the payment. It will be actually largely convenient for them to encourage them to take more business here. So actually, it will be also benefiting Myanmar because with this kind of facilitations, and then it's easier for Myanmar people and Myanmar business actually to have access to a cheaper, more cost saving and more reliable construction services or other materials.
Okay, thank you very much on that. Another important point is obviously infrastructures and finance, it's all linkages, but we are all Asians, and as high senior representatives of our chambers, one of the things that's always been asked by my fellow members is for obviously I would say maybe only 10% of businesses have been to India, maybe only 20% have been to China, maybe 30%, and maybe 150% to Thailand, yeah, because it's a big shopping area. But the thing is, one of the things that I get asked is, when we do business, well, we have to be very careful that we don't offend the other person, especially from who are our neighbors. So, or make sure that, you know, we act in the same way and open ourselves out. Again, Myanmar's only become into the real international business arena for, I would say, maybe the last 8-10 years. So from my viewpoints, and you must get this as well when your members ask, what is it like to do business with Myanmar businessmen? What should you do? What should you not do? I'm sure you all know the etiquette of the Myanmar businesses and Myanmar business people, but maybe you can just explain to me what is the business etiquette from India, Thailand, and China. What should Myanmar businesses try not to do to offend our business friends from our neighboring countries? So maybe if you can just give what you should do, what you shouldn't do, and maybe so Neil, as somebody with such a vast cultural heritage, what do we have to look after, and what do we have to worry about, or is it just, you know, we're just brothers in arms at heart?
Yeah, thanks, Umoja. Very interesting question. I don't think there's anything, you know, in particular to which Indian businesses would find unpalatable or offensive. But an interesting point is, I mean, I think one is, of course, I think both Myanmar and India being ex-British colonies, there is a certain commonality that we had in our earlier education system. And India, of course, then, unfortunately, Myanmar, you know, for 50 years, you were sort of closed down with the world outside. So that obviously impacted, I think, the whole education system. So to that extent, India, of course, kept following the British curriculum and the British way of education. So one thing which I find, and often Indian businessmen complain is, and Indians, of course, whenever we are doing business, we are very particular about contracting and, you know, documentation. So we would always like things to be, you know, in black and white, and not just left in the gray. Whereas what I find is, however, on the Myanmar side, that probably is something which is not very important for Myanmar business. And it's all about, I've spoken to you, it's my word, and you trust it. Of course, businesses do trust, but for Indians, I think it's very important to have a proper contract in place. So that's one thing which we always advise our members, is to see how you need to very carefully discuss whenever you're coming and making either a trade deal or an investment in Myanmar, to talk it out with your partners such that, you know, they're on paper and in terms of contracting, everything is very clear. Because while UMFCCI does have an arbitration cell, you know, otherwise there is really no recourse. If a deal goes wrong or if investment goes sour, then there is a problem if you don't have proper contracting. So that is something which we would really want our Myanmar brothers and sisters to understand. That is something that, you know, any business transaction would need. And the second thing very amazing is, while the younger people are very, very tech savvy, and we've really seen this whole telecom thing, you know, exploding in the last 4 or 5 years with smartphone penetration going up. So people are very good, but unfortunately, emails don't get answered. So, and especially with the government agencies. So that is something which is also, which we expect today, you know, when you're dealing with the Western world, or maybe with Singapore, with Thailand, etc., you certainly expect a very quick email response. But somehow, I think people see Facebook and probably WhatsApp more than seeing the email. So that is something, from a purely from a business point of view is something which is slightly discomforting, is when you don't receive replies to your mail. So I think these are two areas, Umojo, which based on my 8 years of living in this country and dealing more with the Myanmar businesses, I find something different, which Indians probably would expect.
How about you? How about you, Lucas? Before we go to do you see any major differences that Myanmar business to worry about?
Sure, thanks, Komojo. So I think that there's a lot of difference because that Myanmar has a lot of unique cultures and customers and a commercial practice. So, for example, that about the measurements, like the unit of the weight. So I believe that a lot of foreigners still do not get the idea of how much weight the beta is. Right, this is quite different from the international standard, but people use these kind of units here. And also that when talking to people, like when you see Myanmar people crossing their arms when in front of their chest when talking to you, it might means that impatient attitude in China. Like I get bored, I don't want to listen anymore. But here, people use this gesture to show respect. It's totally opposite, right? It's like this kind of thing. And also like taking off shoes, like to enter into an office may not be necessary in China, but it is better to do so in Myanmar when you pay a visit to show courtesy or to show respect. And also it's very common to share foods in the office. Like we take office as a very serious place in China, like people just working there, like consistently they don't share foods or something like that. But here it's very common. You have like high tea in the afternoon, this kind of things, and then it's a very good measure and a very good approach actually to interact with each other, like making friends. And this is very different from the cultures from both parties. And one thing is very interesting is I found that people now trying to likely to say no, like in a very clear way, like to show respect. Myanmar people, it's very good. It's actually a very traditional culture, like saying yabade, hoge, this kind of words. And sometimes that you ask them questions, they to show respect that they answer you like that. But actually, they might have different ideas. But the problem is that sometimes they don't express themselves. So it creates some difficulties that you think that they agree and you wait there and for decades and there's no response. It's quite different culture. So I think with all of these kind of differences, that what we can do is to increase the interactions and then communications. We need to know each other more and better. I think this year both countries' government actually have advocating the Myanmar-China Year of Tourism, but it's actually the COVID is here, but it's not actually very active at this time. But I think that they still can do more communications to know about each other's cultures in order to avoid for the misunderstanding and ambiguities when doing the business here. So my suggestion always to over chamber members, and also that the over chamber is always advocating, is that try every chances to speak to your Myanmar partners, to speak to the people, even go to the market, local market, to see how the people actually the real life of people here is actually going. It's like that. It's a very good way to be localized and adapted into the society.
Thank you. Kun Natawin, 20 years of Yaba there. So how has Thai businesses survived with the Myanmar Yaba there? Yeah, 20 years of experience. Is it something that still, have you got used to Myanmar people saying Yaba there, or is it okay now? And what should Myanmar businesses have to pay special attention when doing business with Thai businessmen? But obviously, 20 years of Yaba there. Have you survived okay?
Of course, I can see that there are the culture of Myanmar people which are very good, because, and it's very similar to Thai as well. And we share a lot of very common grounds, like as I mentioned earlier, religion, lifestyle, we pay respect to the elder people. We take care of the family. These are sort of things that is a culture of Thai and Myanmar, which are very, very close. Yeah. But one thing that I always mention to my colleague or my members is that you have to understand, because of the humble culture that they have and our humble culture that we have in Thailand, sometimes when we discuss about the business, you might not get the clear answer. So you probably need to spend more time, not only the office time, not only the business time, but you probably have to spend your own time, spending time, understand them more, and then try to talk and get what is the idea, what is the hesitation that they have, what is the question that probably they might have. Because sometimes being very close, it can also create some doubt and some misunderstanding, which they might not be able to ask you straight away. So this is something that you need to create the relationship, the bond, and then you will get the answer not directly from what they speak, but indirectly from what they act. So I think that is something that we have to trying to adapt ourselves to the culture. Yeah, and it's not only on Myanmar side; it's also from the Thai side as well. Yeah.
I often say when I'm in the seminars around India and China and Thailand, I try to go in my Myanmar costume. So when I meet my Thai businessmen, Indian businessmen, and Chinese businessmen, I stand up. I say, on the top is Chinese, but the bottom is a Longji. So this is where we stand as Myanmar businesses. Yeah, if you actually look at Myanmar, of course now there's not so many. The usage of Longji is going down, but in the government offices and over here, that is what makes Myanmar very unique. The cross culture that we have. So maybe we can go for some more tactical questions. The question that I'd like to ask you, if I want to be a genie, although I'm not, if I can grant you 3 wishes for your members to have a better business environment, what would they be? If you could be quite quick with that one. So I'm sure Sunil can start. I see that smile there. 3 wishes only, sir. Yeah. Obviously, this will probably be to the policy makers, but also advocates, also stakeholders. 3 things that Myanmar can do so that your members can have a better business environment and do better business.
One is that they should quickly implement some power projects, because I think Myanmar desperately needs electricity. With just 50% electrification, if you have to really jump and become an industrialized nation and go to a more developed country, power, I think, is very, very important. And that is where I would urge the ministry, especially MOEE, to take some quick decisions on, approving power projects. Second wish, Umoja, would be to have a more coordinated approach amongst ministries in NEPIDO. As investors, we find that you have to run around while MIC, Myanmar Investment Commission, is called a single window approval authority. But practically, when you go and interact, and I've really seen it hands-on, implementing a very large Indian project for my current company, Adani. We are building a container terminal. While MIC does approve, but post the approval is the real issue, which starts where you have to then run around to each separate individual ministries to get your approvals. And third, of course, is to get a faster response from various ministries in NEPIDO. Those would be my 3 top on my wish list.
Okay, 3. Kun Natawin, your turn. 3 wishes for you. You can't say the same wishes as the other people. It has to be different, please.
Okay, so we leave the problem with Lucas. Okay, so the 3 wishes, I would say the first one is I would like both government, Thai and Myanmar government, to pay more attention on the border trades, the 2,400 kilometers, because it's not only the trading, but I can see that there are a lot of great potential in terms of investment. And if we can opening up more border gates, I'm sure that we will create a lot of business among the two countries as well as the foreign direct investment. And we can see a lot of different sectors. From very down south, you see tourism, you see food, seafood processing. From the northern part, you see a lot of other industries, or even the power industry, because Thailand now have access in the power supply. So we will be able to connect the grid and then help Myanmar on certain area and many other things. So that is the top of my list. The second one, I would say, and I have to thank UMFCCI because before COVID, I remember in early February, UMFCCI have organized a small informal meeting between Foreign Chamber of Commerce, UMFCCI, and ministers, both union as well as the regional ministers. And that is a very open conversation, relaxed and easy. And I can see that the government as well as UMFCCI would like to help foreign investors to move things easier, to be able to drive the project, to implement it faster. And I think that is very, very important part. So I would say the second part will be, I hope that the government will be able to help facilitate, focus on implementation, make it happen. And this part, I would like to support my friend, Mr. Sunil, because only grant the project, that is not the end. That is only the start of the whole things. We would like to make it happen and make sure that things are getting done fast, and so that we can create more jobs, help growing the Myanmar economy. The third one is the direct Jat Baht currency exchange. I'm sure that this one will help a lot, at least on the trade between Thailand and Myanmar. That is one side already. And because Thailand, as what I mentioned earlier, for the 5 sectors, that we would like to bring our experience and expertise as well as supply chain that we have to help support our Myanmar friends hoping to grow this industry. I'm sure that the supply chain is very, very important. And to build these 5 industries, if you have to build from ground, it's almost impossible. It will take years and years and years. But what if we can have the agree between both government and the private sectors helping out each other, finding the way to move it fast, at the same time using the supply chain that have already existed, especially in Thailand, since we are doing a lot of export, a lot of other business that I mentioned earlier. So the supply chain is already there. Even the investment is coming from China, from Japan, from Korea, from India, from the US, from Europe. We can be part of the supply chain, helping connecting the jigsaw together and drive the business faster. So these are the 3 things that from the Thai Business Association point of view, we believe that these are the key important part. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very comprehensive. So Lucas, you have the tough one now. Another.
Yeah, sure.
It's okay if you want to share the same one. It's all right. It's okay.
It's okay. So, before I raise my wishes, that I would like to say that actually that we all have been here for a couple of years, and we have actually witnessed the significant improvements of Myanmar's business environment in the recent years, actually. So as a commercial lawyer specialized in bringing foreign investment into Myanmar, I still remember that back to the 2015, that it took me more than 3 weeks to get a company incorporated and registered. And then now it's only needs 1 day, and you can do it online. And for MIC permit applications that were used to take 3 to 6 months in the past. And for some particular kind of investment, I have the experience that actually it takes more than 1 year. But now it's actually, you only need 45 to 60 days to get it done. So, and also that during this pandemic period, the government also have a lot of like convenient measures like that you can apply through online with DICA or IRD or MOC. It's really good, actually. And if you will remember that you all stay here for a long time, in the past, if you want to download an attachment in your email, you go to the telegraph house, right? It's a long time story, but it's actually make people really inconvenient, and actually it does not actually do good to the business. But so we can see that actually everything or something that actually happens actually get improved. The development change happens every day actually here in Myanmar. It just sometimes we are not aware of it, but it's actually indeed happening. So actually, first I would like to say that we all recognize and actually sincerely appreciate for this kind of effort actually done by the Myanmar people and the government. Actually, it does change a lot and help the foreign investment a lot. So I think that the above achievement that made by Myanmar are really not easy at all. So to in the future, so my wishes are that first Myanmar should be continue to keep opening up, and also to reform in all aspects. This is my wishes, because only by doing that, Myanmar can attract more foreign investment, and more foreign investment and local business means more job creations. So this will be actually benefiting the neighboring countries, the foreign investment, and also that the Myanmar society itself. And the second one is that the government may consider to publish laws, regulations, and notifications or orders, directives, actually in a very timely manner and more timely manner, and can be done in a single outlet, like the government portal. Like you go to a single website, you can get all the information there already. And I think that now not every people read English or Myanmar, so I think the government can have some translated versions, and then UMFCCI I think can take the job maybe, and then I think as the Chinese version that maybe our CCCM can help you to do that as well. The lastly that is about the dispute resolution. So as a lawyer, I'm always focused on these kind of things, because there is more and more reinvestment here, and it means more and more dispute. It's unavoidable. People may have some dispute there. We are happy to say that the UMCCI already have its own arbitration center called Myanmar Arbitration Center. Actually, it will be significantly help the people to settle disputes here, especially the commercial dispute, and also that the labor dispute, which is quite a big issue here, like for the government factories. And only by setting up this kind of a dispute resolution institute, can make a better investment environment for Myanmar, and actually people for investment think that their legitimate rights are protected. They are willing to come here for investment. Yeah, these are the 3 points that I would like to make wishes.
Okay, I hope to grant you all your wishes. And again, by participating in these sort of webinars, we can actually get the message across. And of course, all our chambers need to work more hard to actually send the message out to the people who are making the decisions and the policy makers. So it's unfortunate, but 1 month ago, I was doing a similar webinar with views from the West, these being the chambers of the British Chamber, the American Chamber, and the French Chamber. And we were seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. And just 3 weeks ago, we were the lowest figures in the world. Obviously, these last 3 weeks, with the lockdown that's happened again for Yangon, things are getting a little bit tough for us. Yeah, I'm in one opinion that I think the local transmission has started, and it's going to be extremely difficult with lockdown or without lockdown for us to maintain these figures. I mean, the fact over here is we border Bangladesh and India. There's just so many, there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of it, and the borders are porous. So local transmissions will even if it stops for 2 weeks, it may start again. As we all know, all this started with just one case. So we know how tough it is. So just before we finish off, again, I think it's really important that we discuss, what are you telling your members how to cope with this current pandemic in Myanmar? I know, Lucas, you're in Kunming and but you must, every day you're talking with them over here, and they are coming to you, your members are coming to you. What are you telling them to do? Maybe not just from the health aspect, but maybe business wise. So who's got the most members? I think Kunatawin, you probably might have the most members. So what are you telling your members to do? Is it safe? Is it life or livelihood at the moment?
Thanks a lot. I would say at the very early stage, end of March, we got a lot of questions from our members, and at that time, it was very panic. Yeah. But then, what we are conveying in message is that, and you can see from during the Tinjan period, the Myanmar government has done a very good job, and of course, it happened and it was successful because of the collaboration of the Myanmar people. They are aware and they do their job. That is very, very important part. Now, the last 3 weeks, situation have changed. Yeah. And it's very unfortunate. We know it's not easy to control the pandemic and it's happened all over the world. But what we can see is that because Myanmar is a frontier market, the opportunity of the investment is there. There's still a lot of growth opportunities. At the same time, you are connecting, you're still very, you have least connecting to the world economy. So the impact of your economy will be less. This is what we convey a message to our member that we trust in Myanmar. We believe that the Myanmar market will be growing. And because of the immediate action of the Myanmar government to lock down, we hope that the government will be able to control the situation in the very near future and the business will resume back. At the same time, we also share the implementation of what the Thai government and the business in Thailand have done to our Myanmar team, to our Myanmar friends, to our colleague, our members, that this is quite successful in a way. So please share what we have done in Thailand to our team over there, because the most important part is not the business. The most important part is the people. We want to make sure that our friends, family, our colleagues working in our factories, our company, they are safe. Yeah. And then we can resume the business in the near future. And at the moment, with the slot of 5-6 months that Myanmar government have controlled the pandemic quite well. So I think the business also have changed, have adapted itself. We are using more of the technology to help run the business. The bank also facilitate with their mobile banking, the facilities. And at the same time, a lot of people also keep the good practice, not only from Thailand, but also in other countries in the world. And now in Myanmar, you guys are more ready. You have alcohol, you wash your hand, you have masks, you keep the social distance. I think these are the key successful. We don't know when the vaccine will be coming, whether it will be effective yet. But I think if we control our behavior, that will help keep our people safe.
So how about you, Lucas? Well, how are you advising your members? I know that most of the business community in China who are doing business there, most of them have stayed on. But what are you telling them at this current moment? Do you have enough news on your side to give good ideas and good recommendations and advice to your members?
So echoing with Natawin, actually we are doing the same. The first is that we tell our members to actually keeping confidence in Myanmar people and the government. So we trust that with the efforts by the government, actually the self-discipline by the people, actually our people has already done a very good job in the first wave. This second wave can be controlled and overcome in the future. And also that there a lot of countries are actually developing the vaccine worldwide. A lot of countries have already talked and agreed with Myanmar government that to have Myanmar people to prioritize in using this kind of vaccine. So once we are waiting that once the vaccine is ready and then people can get the vaccine, and then some first from some group of people and then to expand to all the peoples here, then there will be actually the pandemic will be finally under control. And what we are doing is that we are encouraging our members to give possible and all the aids that actually they can afford to the local societies and also the communities and organization, also the government departments here. So we have already made a lot of donations to the locals, like the in cash, in mask, and also that the medical gloves and other medical equipments. So actually, I think that this is a common challenge for all the peoples. Now China is actually put the COVID under well control. Now people go on the street, they don't need to wear a mask in most of the cities that in China. Actually, that the key for achieving that is to implement a very strict quarantine measures in the country. I think people understood about that, and the government is actually taking actions. For example, that I'm here staying in this quarantine hotel for 14 days, and they give me 2 times of body temperature measurement each day, and then they gave me 4 times of the test, like COVID test. Actually, when I arrived at the airport, and actually at that time I declared that I have some symptoms of about maybe I feel some headache, and then they give me more like test. So it's very strict here. So I think that what we can do is that our members will try to find the other and the more just like the medical supplies, and then try to donate to the people that in Myanmar actually who are actually needs that. Actually, that we would like to also share with our local business partners here in Myanmar, that what kind of measures that we taken in China and in order to actually put this pandemic under control. Yeah.
Okay, those are very good. And again, the figures are amazing from Thailand side and from China as well. I mean, I think nearly everything's back to normal in China. Yeah. So, Zamil, I think we have the biggest figures over here. Again, just a month, 3 weeks ago, I was telling everybody from our participants from the West that you're much safer in Myanmar than you would be in the UK, France, or in the States. But things are starting to look a little bit scary on your side. So, well, what did you say? Can you actually tell your members, Sunil, that you're still a little bit safer in Myanmar than you would be in India? Or what are you giving them to give reassurance? I mean, for a lot of business now, I mean, again, Kunatwin's had a point, we're a growing market, but in the same way, companies here, you know, UMS, CCI with the government, I think we're now totally nearly 200 billion jats have been given out, or being given up so far, which is not at all enough. So things like loans, and you know, the second wave is, I would think, hitting a lot of Myanmar businesses quite difficultly. Do your members, Sunil, have the same problem in terms of cash flow, or do you think they'll be able to weather the second wave that we're having? And generally, what are you telling your members to do, especially the ones that are stuck here, who are still here?
Yeah, I think India, as you know, is today probably the second worst affected country, with over 90,000 cases and overall about nearly 5 million, and we are going to soon catch up with US. So it's very, very concerning. In fact, in March, when this thing just started, a lot of Indian expats working here wanted to go back to India. But then we got, as part of our chamber, we got our ambassador, who's also the patron of IMCC, to sort of communicate on a webinar with all the members. And what ambassador had to communicate was that, you know, you're going to India is not going to help you. I mean, India, even at that point in time, was not in such a good shape. So as a matter of fact, a lot of Indians, including people like me, we've just stayed on in Yangon, and we are glad we did that. MOHS, I think, is doing a fantastic job in terms of the way they are handling COVID. And I think very important is also, what I highly appreciate is the discipline that Myanmar people follow, which unfortunately we don't see so much of that in India, quite frankly. So I think, so our communication to the members is that please strictly follow MOHS guidelines. The safety of the members and their families, of course, is the top priority for us. Businesses, yes, Umojo, are impacted like for everyone else, except that India, of course, like I was mentioning earlier to you, we are a lot in the pharmaceutical business, and that, to the extent I think possible, we are in fact trying to do our best. The whole distribution system is working overtime to see that whatever medicines, whatever critical equipment is required in terms of ventilators or PPEs, masks, oxygen, etc. Both government of India as well as the private pharmaceutical companies, which are all part of the India-Myanmar chamber, are doing a very good job in making sure that the right medicines are available for our Myanmar friends.
Thank you very much. Again, all the help that your chamber is doing to help us with this pandemic is much appreciated. So on behalf of UMFCCI, we'd like to thank you for that. And hopefully we can see more support coming through. So I think this comes to the end of our webinar. Again, on behalf of UMFCCI, I'm sure all the viewers who are with us today, thank you very, very much for spending these few hours with us and giving us your candid and valid points in what the views from our neighbors is. And I think we have 9 beautiful wishes. We have a good understanding why Myanmar is so important. We've all been here. We know at the end of the day, our people are so similar and we are brothers at heart. On behalf of UMSCCI and Myanmar businesses, we count on India. I mean, I actually think India has got much more to offer, and I agree with you, Samil, than Myanmar people are. I think Myanmar people need to start looking west, yeah? Apart from Buddha Gaya, we don't understand the vast market that India supplies. And let's not forget the education and the health tourism that's available over here. Yeah, Thailand for us is our biggest mall, especially Bangkok. Yeah? It was only 50 minutes away, and it will continue to stay. And again, I think we need to do a lot of bonding with the Chinese businesses. Yeah, I've been following. I'm part of the GMS Business Council. I mean, I was in Kunming, and Yunnan. Yeah, Yunnan, Kunming. 10, 15 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. And it's just, at that time I thought Kunming was like Mandalay. This is 15 years ago. You go to Kunming now. I thought I was in either Seoul or Tokyo. It's that developed over here, yeah? So, we do count on more Chinese investments. I think we as chambers need to tell not only our businesses, but our ambassadors as well, that the future for us, the mutual benefit for us in this region is Myanmar. Well, we've got 20 years to catch up on. Everybody talks about the digital leapfrog. With the experience that Thailand has and how to develop the country the last 30 years, how China has done it 20 years, and what makes us Asia from India is the perfect fit for us to develop our businesses and help business in Myanmar develop further. So thank you very, very much. We hope to see you back soon, Kun Natawin, and maybe hopefully when you come back, Lucas, there won't be a drastic quarantine, but there probably will be. So thank you very, very much on behalf of UMFCCI, and I hope that we can probably do another webinar like this maybe in 6 months' time, and then we can view points, we can relook at what's been done and what we can work together. So thank you very, very much, Samil. Thank you very much, Kunatawa, and thank you very much, Lucas. So on behalf of UMFCCI, thank you very much and goodbye.